So today we're talking Terrifier, a horror movie from 2016. The reason why we're doing it today is because we did a review of Terrifier 2, which was all the rage just recently because everybody's talking about it all over TikTok. Welcome to Boys on Film. My name is Phil Marriott. I'm joined once again by Paul Joseph. We kind of liked Terrifier 2, didn't we? We found it interesting, but too long.
Yeah. It was. We both had, I think, shared the same, that we really started really enjoying it and thought it'd be really great, and then it was let down by a very, very long, protracted end. And it, was the runtime was like 2 hours. Something?
Two and a half hours. Yeah. Way too long. But I think he knows that though. The writer and director Damien Leone, he knows that it was too long.
It had a lot of interesting stuff going on, so I think we were kind of okay with it.
David Howard Thornton, again, obviously Art the Clown, who's this horror villain. Jenna Kanell stars Samantha Scaffidi, Catherine Corcoran. This time round, Art the Clown hunts 3 young women on Halloween.
We don't know anything about the clown or where he's come from or who he is anyway, and there's a couple of girls who are out for a late night. They end up getting stranded and then decide to go somewhere and hang out, and stuff happens to them, and one of their sisters comes to get them and gets caught up in it. But it's very much get a group of people to a certain place and then have them tormented by this clown-faced villain set up.
Starts off in a pizza cafe and all over the walls because he goes behind the counter.
Yeah.
Do you remember? He goes in the room at the back and smothers shit all over the walls. So one of the guys that works there is really pissed off because he's having to clean it all off.
I kind of forgot that because I actually watched this in 2 stages. I got to a point where I was watching it a couple of weeks ago and I just had enough and stopped and then came back to it just to finish
I love that. It was a really grueling watch.
I think this one is a lot clearer in the torture porn, really nasty body stuff done.
I think you're talking about the one scene that I thought was really nasty, which involves hanging up and a chainsaw. Yeah. To be honest, I very nearly stopped it then because I thought, okay, if this is where we're going, I don't really want to. I mean, I've seen all that before, but what happens, the detail of that, particularly when it involves women as well.
And I think I mentioned that when we were talking about the Terrifier 2, how some of the violence was so extreme and so ridiculous that people could still be alive when that was done. But I did make a point about it seemed a bit like, there were male characters that were stuff done to as well, so it felt like that wasn't quite as this. Whereas there's 2 particular things that involve females and parts of females' bodies that just feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, just kind of nasty, really. When I paused in watching it to then come back to it, I was just a bit like, other than doing this review, this is not the type of film I would watch at all. I think torture porn had its day, maybe. It's not about whether stuff's gory and graphic. It's almost a bit like intent and all other things. And this just, and there was another bit later on where, someone's kind of flayed and he's wearing their body and stuff, and it just felt a bit.
But then I suppose horror isn't very nice, but I think there are limits. It's interesting because the writer-director Damien Leone, I was watching an interview with him today, and he was asked about lines that he would cross, and he does say that there are lines that he wouldn't cross, and there were details from the second film, there were scenes from the second film that they did cut, because he just thought, okay, I don't want to really upset my audience, I don't want to divide people.
I read something with him about that film where there was something about the scene where he basically chops a guy's dick off. They could have gone further with that, and they were going to have him like the clown, like putting it on his the nose. I mean, I think he like slapped it against a car windscreen or something. But it'd be interesting if that line was male genitalia as opposed to what happens to female characters. But also, I guess the second film has quite a lot of children in it as well, doesn't it? So maybe something like that as well.
Yeah, I know he wanted to change the tone of the second film. He wanted it to be more of a blockbustery type film, which was more like a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of vibe, rather than something that was quite gritty. Because this first film is a lot grittier, I think, than the second one. There's not as much humour, although I still think David Howard Thornton, that plays Art the Clown, I think he's amazing. I think he's definitely really one of the best things about this film.
And you can see why, off the back of this film, they then would have got more funding and the people would be interested in doing that, because he is, as I said when we reviewed Terrifier 2, you can quite easily see his mask in a shop at Halloween alongside some of the others. It's a very
He's
recognisable
iconic.
character. And again, this might be sort of budget somewhat, but obviously the second film, like those horror films like Nightmare on Elm Street or Scream or whatever, it kind of happens in suburbia, doesn't it? So you have stuff at high schools, whereas this, most of it is taking place at night in disused buildings.
It does change the mood of it, though, because I think there's so much potential when you think of it as a horror comedy. Because Art the Clown, I think, as a character, has a really funny edge. Obviously, he does kill people, which isn't funny, but sometimes you've got a really, really evil Art the Clown. Sometimes you've got a kind of playful evil Art the Clown.
Yeah, I'm not squeamish at all.
No, I'm not either.
I don't see stuff and go, well, it's going to make me sick. We've all grown up in horror, female victims and scream queens and whatever, and it is what it is. But I think now, when you're getting to points of horror that involve mutilation and other things that involve female body parts and stuff, I just think that's a difficult place to go. And I don't think, I think a lot of directors maybe don't have the right to go there.
Yeah, times have changed. So, final score. Do you want to go first?
I will give it a 25.
Wow. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
Is it because of those scenes we talked about? Was that really kind of damaging your final score?
I think it's a sort of genre it's a type of film and a type of horror that I would normally not go near at all. But rather than give it nothing, I think the what did I say, 25?
You said 25, yeah. I'm saying 42, by the way.
The 25 is for the fact that it sets up a good protagonist. It's got a few good ideas in there. It does set up an atmosphere and whatever, but I think I wouldn't really want to give it much more than that. So
no, I mean, I agree with you about those scenes and about the torture element, because to a certain extent you expect torture in horror films, but I think when it's really pushed, it's like he's playing with the audience a little bit to see how far he can go, to see what reactions he can get, which I suppose is what you need to do as a filmmaker. You need to be quite bold, I think, in some ways, but I think it's just too much. I mean, I've seen other films that are really gratuitous, maybe not gratuitous, that's not the right word, but really, really violent, but are better. I like the overall style of the film. I like the idea of the film. I think he's an amazing horror villain, Art the Clown. I just think that there are so many bits that don't work. I think obviously with the second film it was the running time. I think with this one, I think the running time's right. It's 86 minutes, but I just think, I kind of like the characters, the girls, but I just don't like the way they were used in the story.
Yeah. They're just kind of fodder, really, aren't they? And I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely one of those ones where I think the sequel's better than the first one, and we've already identified flaws with the sequel. So maybe Terrifier 3 will nail it on the head. Would
you watch Terrifier 3 though after seeing the first two?
That's a good point, and probably I shouldn't, but I probably will.
You just can't get enough.
It's the clown, Art the Clown.
Well, clowns are scary. I mean, a lot of people are terrified by clowns, aren't they? And I think if they... Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's the scariest one of them all.
Is he still a thing? Do they still have Ronald McDonald?
You're asking a vegan?
Oh, sorry.
I have no idea. I don't want to know. So it's a blunder. It's a Boys on Film blunder because it is a low score. 33.5%. Wow, I think that's the lowest we've ever scored. Not the lowest rating we've given, but back in the days of star rating, I think 1 star was given by Sean for Tomorrow Morning, the musical.
I gave 1 star to the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, I think that was undeserved.
I always like to relate it to budget and resource and ambition and whatever. So that's why some other films we reviewed maybe don't achieve as much, but actually their ambition is much greater. As I think, when you're making a remake or a sequel of a really well-known genre and have got the budget to do it, if you mess that up, then you deserve 1 star.
Very brutal, Paul Joseph.
Very, very, very harsh. Very, very harsh.
Good to see you as always. Thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back soon for another review, but also coming soon, a big special about Christmas horror films. Fabulously festive or ferociously festive. I can't remember what we called it. Frighteningly festive or something like that. So make sure you subscribe. See you later.